EA Sports presents NHL Hockey 96.
Okay, here we are again, EA Sports NHL 96 on PC using DOSBox. We're playing an all-star level season with the Dallas Stars, and we just hit game 80. So let's have a look at the standings after 80 games. In the West, we have Dallas, Calgary, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, and Los Angeles locked into the playoffs. And the Edmonton Oilers and the Anaheim Mighty Ducks have been eliminated. So the teams remaining in the hunt: Winnipeg Jets and Toronto Maple Leafs above the line, Vancouver Canucks and the San Jose Sharks below the line. Dallas, the toast of the league, but now with 4 losses and 2 ties, with that recent loss to Toronto, and then a big comeback game against Detroit. 150 points. Then Chicago 105, Red Wings 104, Blues 92, Calgary 90, 77 for the Kings, Jets 75, 68 for Toronto, 67 for the Canucks. So very close there. They've both played 80 games, same as San Jose. They're at 63. They're probably going to be the next team to go out, but should be a battle right down to the wire to see whether Vancouver or Toronto make it into the playoffs. I'm hoping for Toronto. Both teams have beaten Dallas, though, this season. In the East, the Quebec Nordiques are locked in along with the Flyers, Rangers and Bruins, Devils, Penguins, Capitals, Hartford Whalers still above the line at 70. The New York Islanders and the Montreal Canadiens, the only team with half a chance, 80 games and 63 points apiece. But they've got a ways to go to catch the Whalers, who played 80 games and have 7 more points. So it's likely the Whalers are going to finish that off fairly shortly. And then if we go to the stats for the league roster, in points, you've got Eric Lindros and John LeClair, best of the rest, 129 points, 127. Alexei Zamnov with the same as Klatt, 114. Mikhail Renberg, 113. So that top 7 contains all 3 of the Legion of Doom. Great season for them. Teemu Selanne and Keith Tkachuk in Winnipeg, 101 points each. Then Kevin Stevens in Pittsburgh, 98. And then Jaromir Jagr and Cam Neely, 96. On the goal side of things, you've got Kevin Stevens and Joe Murphy at 57. Peter Bondra, who will play next in game 81, has 56. John LeClair, 55. Richer, 52. Renberg, 51. Teemu Selanne, 51. Olin Nolan, 50. Trent Klatt, 49. Alexei Gamnov, 48. So Trent Klatt will be hoping to make 50 by the end of the season. On the power play side of things, John LeClair and Joe Murphy and Rick Tocchet all have 14 power play goals. Owen Nolan and Trent Klatt tied at 13. Renberg, Jagr, Robitaille, Graves, and Bradley all at 12, and Zamnov at 11. Shorthanded goal world, look at Bondra, still leading the league, 14 shorthanded goals. Eric Lindros and Pierre Turgeon, 9. Then you got Rowanek, Sundin, Courtnall, Audette, and Kissio at 8. Fedorov and Reichel at 7. Gagne at 6. On the plus minus, you've got Mikhail Renberg, John LeClair, and Eric Lindros, 32 and 31, plus 31. For Philly, Quebec, Peter Forsberg, Owen Nolan, Chris Simon, all at plus 28. And Joe Murphy in Chicago, plus 26. And then Kelly Kissio still top of the list for the shooting percentage, 40.9. Kevin Stevens, 35.4. John Leclerc, 35.2. Richer, 33.7. Peter Bonja, the last one above 1 and 3, 33.5. Nolan, 32.0. Shepard, 31.2. Renberg, 30.5. Joe Murphy, 28.9. 28.7 for Presley and Whitney. And Keith Primo, 28.3. So some good numbers there. And goals against average. So Andy Moog still sitting at 1.09 after that last shutout. Trimmed it down a bit. 1.96 for Jeff Hackett. So he's been hanging in there all season. Then you've got... actually, how many games has he played? So Hackett, 27 games now. He's still under 2. Then Chris Terreri, 2.35. Thibault, he's pretty much been the first starting goalie after Andy Moog in the list all season long. 2.51. Tabaracci, 2.55. Healy, 2.56. Flaherty, 2.70. Lacker, another starting goaltender in Boston, 2.76. Billington, 2.80 as his backup. Jim Carey, starting goalie in Washington, 2.87. We're going to try and increase that in our next game. 2.89 for Mark Fitzpatrick in Florida, and 2.90 for Martin Brodeur in New Jersey. On the win side of things, Jocelyn Thibault with 45, Vernon with 37, Hextall and Richter 34, Jim Carey, Kelly Rudy, and Blaine Lacker at 32, Ed Belfour at 30, Tom Barrasso 29, Martin Brodeur 26, and Curtis Joseph 25. With the shutouts, Andy Moog leading the league, 28 shutouts in 80 games. Martin Brodeur 4. Then you've got Belfour, Hextall, and Potvin with 3. And then a whole raft at 2. Carey, Flaherty, Hackett, Kolzig, Richter, Tabaracci, Jocelyn Thibault. Probably a bunch more under there. And then on the save percentage, Andy Moog 9.52. Jeff Hackett right on 900. Stéphane Fiset 890. 887 for Hasek. 885 and for Waugh and Thibault. 883 for Flaherty and Potvin. 881 for Shovelday and Rudy. 880 for Belfour. And 879 for Tom Barrasso. So still some excellent goaltending out there. Not far enough, not terribly far away in the top 12 from 900. So let's just have a quick look at the actual season. So if we go back to October, started off well with 2-6-0 shutouts. Then a tight one against Chicago, 3-1, but still got the win. 4-0 against the Jets and 3-0 against the Senators. Both of those games were tough. 3-1 against Detroit, that was a tough game, and the Jets 4-2. Then 2-1 against Vancouver. So really tough stretch here. After those first 2 wins, the rest of the month essentially was hard. 4-1 against the Oilers, but that opened up late. 4-3 win. I think that was overtime against the Penguins. A 4-1 win against New York and a 4-0 win against the Nordique. The Islanders 3-0, then 4-0, 6-0 against Chicago, and 6-1 against the Islanders. So things a little more open there. 4-2, another tough game against Penguins. 7-1 against Detroit. That was a little more open. Then the loss to Philadelphia, the first loss of the season. Then we played the Washington Capitals for the first of 2 times. 6-1. They'll be looking for retribution in our next game. Tight one against New Jersey, 3-1. Then a tough one against the Sharks, 3-0. I think that was a game where we just scored 1 goal a period for the game. 5-1 against Buffalo. That one opened up late. Then a really tough game against the Nordique, 1-0. That was the reverse side of the 1-0 loss to Toronto late in the season. Then 6-2 against St. Louis. Played well in that game. 6-0 against Toronto. So the end of the month was satisfying. And then a loss to Vancouver to start December. Then a 7-0 win against the Sharks. A tight one, 1-0 again against the Blues. I can't remember if that went to overtime, tied at 0. I think it might have. 3-1 for the Blackhawks, or against the Blackhawks. So another tight one against Chicago. And then 3-1 right away at home against the Blues. That one was tough. 4-1 against Detroit. Then 5-2 against Chicago. 4-1 against New Jersey Devils. So none of these runaways. 5-1 against Toronto. 4-1 against Hartford. But then a blowout against Boston in their rink, 9-2. But then tightened up again right away, 3-1 against St. Louis. Then another blowout in the Detroit rink, 9-3. Then 3-0 against Toronto. And then 7-1. So a bit of relief at the end. But this game against Toronto was tough again. Then in January, started off with a 3-0 win against the Kings, 3-0 win against Tampa Bay, 5-2 against the Jets, 3-1 against the Oilers, tough one. These two were tight. Can't remember if there were any empty net or goalie goals in those or not. 3-0 against the Sharks, 3-0 again against the Kings, 5-0 against Hartford, and then another 5-goal win in 6-1 the next game we played. Then a loss to the Kings after 2 3-0 victories. They get us 2-1. Then came back 5-2 win against the Ducks. Then 3-0 against the Sharks. Another tough way to end the month. Then 8-2 against Tampa Bay to start February. 7-4 against St. Louis. 5-1. 3-1. That was a tough game. 3-1 against Calgary. Then another big win against Detroit. 9-1. Then 6-3 against Toronto. They came back well. Boston 4-0. Not even sure. Toronto might have been ahead in that game. I think they might have been. 5-0 against the Jets. 6-0 against Calgary. Then 12-2 against Calgary's biggest win of the season. 6-0 against the Oilers. And then a 5-2 win against Vancouver in Dallas. In March, started off with a tie against the Canadiens, 6-0 against the Ducks, 6-2 against the Kings, 2-1 against the Jets, another tough one, 3-0 against the Ducks, then 2-1 win against Toronto, 3-0 win against the Philadelphia Flyers, that's what they're called. That was a hard game. Good win, though. Then another tie against Montreal. Then a very close game against Ottawa. I don't think that went to overtime, but I think it was closely played for that. And then a 9-2 blowout against New York Rangers. 8-2 against the Oilers. 5-3, tough one against Chicago. And 3-2, another tough one against Chicago. Then the loss to Toronto at the end of March. So 2 ties and a loss in March. Then we come in. The last game we played was 8-0 against the Detroit Red Wings in Dallas. And the next game we'll play is the second game against Washington. We beat them 6-1 in their rink. They're going to want to get some revenge. Okay, so that's what it looked like after 80 games and a retrospective on the season. I'll probably continue to do the standings after every game now, just to see how the bottom team to make the West is shaping up. Okay, so until then, let's keep our heads up, sticks on the ice, watch for the pass. We'll catch you here next time. Thanks for stopping by.